Let's do that then. So on the panel today, we have Cecilia Asham to my right, our General Manager of Community Safety, and we also have Peter Russell to my left, our Director of Sustainability and Environment. And my name is Joe Urseg. I'm the General Manager of Planning and Development. So the panel's job is to look at form and character. So we have two projects that we'll be taking a look at today. We've seen them before, and they were referred to staff and applicants for a bit more work. So we'll be taking a second look at those projects. For each item, we will hear presentations from applicants and staff, and we'll then, if there are any members of the public, we'll give you a chance to speak and make comments to the panel. If we have any written correspondence, we will deal with that, and then the panel will deliberate and formulate a recommendation for council. If you want to speak on a project, you need to do it at the panel today, because when it moves on to council, you can't delegate to council. That's the procedure, bylaw that we follow. So with that out of the way, the first thing is to adopt some minutes of a meeting held on September the 16th. So I'll take it as no additions or deletions. So they're adopted. Okay, so that brings us to the first application. It's a general compliance for the Hamilton Village Care Centre Holdings Limited. We looked at this a couple of weeks ago, I think at the last meeting, and in addition to some design changes, there was an issue, and the referral revolved around a tree that had been damaged and removed. So the applicant's here, come on down, and I think for your comments it would be sufficient. We do have an updated staff report. It would be sufficient just to focus on the tree, the matter of the referral, and just let us know what you've arrived at.
Okay. My name is Travis Martin.
Yeah.
I am with Van der Zalm & Associates. Do you require my address, or?
Yeah. Please.
It's 20 West 12th Avenue, Vancouver.
Okay.
And I'd just like to make a short presentation. As you mentioned last time we were here on September 16th, we were asked to come back with a proposal for additional compensation for the loss of tree 869. I'd like to make a short presentation about the planting design and end with our proposal.
Sure.
Okay. So, when we start any project, our goal is to create a landscape that is both looking good on day one and will grow and mature for decades to come. And that was the intent that we had when we started this project. And so we located trees in a way that we felt would allow them to grow to their mature state. In addition, the social aspects that we considered were for the residents of this long-term care facility. They're going to be confined to this building for much of their life, and we want to make sure they have good light into the rooms and they have good views, and that they're still connected to the community. And so that means seeing beyond, seeing Garapi Avenue, seeing Westminster Avenue Highway, and being a part of that action, whether it's pedestrians or cars. So in the planting design, we tried to make sure that the residents were supported by nature, not overly shaded, not creating claustrophobic environments, or being disconnected from the community. And our design included 74 replacement trees. This is for a deciduous tree, 6 centimeter caliper, typical, or 3 and 3.5 meters for conifers. In the ESA area, additional 79 saplings, and overall over 4,000 perennials, grasses, ground covers, and shrubs. And this is a result of working with the planning staff and with our environmental professional to develop the environmentally sensitive replacement area. The photo on the top right is our frontage along Garapi Avenue, and the photo on the bottom right is the yard along the green link that extends from the Oris development north along the side of our project. Next slide, please.
Oh, I think
you have the control.
Sorry,
we're a self-service
Yeah,
outfit.
that works. Okay. So what this resulted in is two sort of regular frontages along the south and the east side, which I just showed you pictures of. And we reinstated over 1,000 square meters of environmentally sensitive area. This was along the entire north side and west facing yard and reaching around a bit to the south. So this included mostly native trees. And the native conifers especially are very large and will grow to a very large maturity. And so we want to respect the space that they require to do that. In addition, so we position them away from the courtyards to make sure we're not going to overly shade a lot of these resident rooms, but while still creating a very robust landscape. In addition, on the bottom of this slide, in the bottom left corner, you'll see that the two trees that we have planted that we had originally just planted as a replacement for the loss of tree A669, generally in the location it was situated. So we feel the result of this planting plan is now a robust landscape that will mature with the site. And we've planted many trees and much landscape, and we do not think it would benefit from any additional trees on site. We think it would create an onerous maintenance issue for the ongoing service providers of this project or this property. And so, before we get to the proposal, I'd just like to talk about the protection of trees by our development team. I feel like we didn't fully explain that in our last time here. We believe that the contractor and owner acted in good faith during the process of this project. For 2 years, the contractor operated in a very confined site with limited mobility for staging and for access. And that's a costly and time-consuming effort, and they did that diligently for years on end until the project was almost open. And so that shows dedication. He also incurred the cost of expansion of the Gabion Wall as a result of off-site works that were determined 2 years post-DP design drawings. And of course we would do that, and we would do everything we can to save trees. And so tree 869 was harmed in the last 2 months before opening, and it was not anyone's intent. It was a result of miscommunication, and it was disappointing after such complicated and costly efforts to maintain that tree. If you look to talk about this further, I can provide more details afterwards. At this point, we have now forfeited a $10,000 bond for tree 869, and we're offering an additional $5,000 for tree compensation off-site. This totals $15,000, which at the current City of Richmond standards for tree replacement of $750 per tree would equate to 20 brand new trees, believing the maintenance of those trees, because $750 is quite substantial for one tree, in the City of Richmond, hopefully in Hamilton Village or anywhere that the city sees fit. And we hope that this will help increase and improve the quality of life for citizens or parks and help advance the city's climate change goals. That is all I have, but Mary, the president of the Hamilton Village, would like to take a few more comments, if possible.
Hi, I am Mary McDougall. My address is 4315 Skyline Drive in North Vancouver. I am the president and I'm also an owner of Hamilton Village Care Centre. And the purpose of me coming to this discussion is I had heard mention that there was an indication that we had intentionally harmed nature. And I am saddened by that message coming to me, and that's why I'm in front of you. We care in Hamilton Village for some of our most vulnerable people in society, and I'm proud to do that. And as an environmentalist, I can assure you that there was no intention to harm anything, including a tree on our property that we had committed to retain. So what I'm hoping today is the accidental harm of a tree, not the intentional harm, which is quite significantly different. We accidentally, after 2 years of trying to care for this particular important community amenity that we are continuing to deliver on the site, a community amenity in the form of care, including an ESA. I think there's so much to celebrate that it truly is. It saddens me to think that we would be associated with any kind of intentional harm. I apologize for damaging the tree on behalf of my team. We didn't intend that to happen, and what we are proposing to hopefully do is acknowledge the value in terms of environmental value by placing 2 new trees on our site and offering to bring 20 new trees to the community elsewhere in terms of the value of those trees as a step forward to recognize when an accident happens that we have to lean in to try to solve it, but that it was not intentional. That I'm sorry.
Perhaps I can just respond to that because I raised the concerns at the last meeting about the circumstances behind the tree being damaged. I do appreciate you being here. I do appreciate the clarity of the message and the explanation of today's meeting. It wasn't there at the previous meeting, and certainly from the city's point of view, there is a world of difference between the sort of an unintended action and a conscious decision to do something in a manner other than the agreed and approved manner. So for me, I think that the message today is clear and appreciated and understood, because at the last meeting it simply wasn't clear why it was that it couldn't be kept. And I do accept that if there was a lack of commitment to the tree, it probably would have been gone at the front end, not the back end of the development process.
Yeah.
That seems logical to me. So I accept that, these things can happen, and I think we have a better foundation to make a decision on this application today than we did at the last meeting. Yeah. Okay. Any questions from the panel? Maybe we can go to city staff. And Wayne, do you have some comments on this one?
Just a brief comment, Mr. Chair. In terms of the replacement planting offsite, the planting will be conducted by the city's Parks Department. The city's Park Department has identified Hamilton Highway Park as the likely location for these additional trees, as there's ongoing work in that park.
Right. Okay. Good. And any questions for staff? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to comment regarding this application? No? Nothing written?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Brings us to panel deliberation. I think from my point of view, I'm happy with the what's being proposed as compensation for the tree. I do understand that you probably just can't get it on the site, and so I think a good solution is to have the city use the funds to provide trees elsewhere. It's a bit unfortunate that that it came to this, but there's not much that can be done about it now. So I'm going to support the application as is.
Likewise. Yeah, and jumping onto that, I'm pleased to see that the trees will be planted in Hamilton as well, because more people will benefit from that. So, thank you.
All right. So if we can maybe have someone move the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. So I'll call the question. All those in favour? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, and thank you for your explanation today.
Can we get rid of that little square on the screen once you put the, when you put the presentation on, there's a little square of the
WebEx meeting is still
WebEx
visible.
meeting. It has to stay on the screen?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You want to tell Wing we can probably get by without the panel, the model and stuff?
Sure. Wing, no need to move the model? No. Joe, we'll probably try and put general compliance on the October 13th council agenda, which means we'll get you chair's report tomorrow.
That's fine. No problem. Evangel, is there anyone from the public here today on this one?
I don't see anybody.
No? Okay. So this is the development permit for 6333 Marbing Street. When you were here, I guess close to, on July the 29th, this one got referred for three things, so maybe we can just stick to those three things. I think the rest of it was in order. There was the truck access for I think the garbage, for the neighbouring property. There was some treatment of the south wall. And then, of course, there were some issues around the tenant relocation plan, the details. So do you want to take a shot at those three areas?
Sure. I guess on the screen and in front of me is the board for the south elevation, which panel asked us to look at. So I believe you have the report as well. And it showed the reduction in the number of mechanical grills from 7 to 5. This was achieved through further mechanical studies and more detailed study as to what is really required. And so the reduction came after the study from the mechanical consultant. So you see that on the third level there is 5 instead of 7 grills. You will see that on the second floor roof, which is in front of the grills, which was a roof before, it is now a planted roof. So you see the landscaping on there.
Okay.
And the green wall is still there, but what we have done is let in the corridor leading to the exit, the glass block walls in there, so that there will be some visibility of light into the parking on the second floor and light into the corridor and parking on the ground floor. And then the added recess is enlarged, where you can see is painted in the butterscotch color in the middle, where we've enlarged that, which was the exit door from the parking and the corridors on the residential, so that that's a wider area, so that it's good for septic, so that less chance of people hiding in there, and there's a landscape planting in the recess as well. So the color's been painted to match the panels for the townhouses, which you see on the west side, which is to the left of the board, facing Mineral Park. So that's our proposal for dealing with animating the middle portion of the south elevation. As for the second point about the neighbors' parking spots, we submitted a letter that their council had a vote, and they are in support 6-1 in removing the 2 stalls.
So
And that was a proposal we gave them back in March of this year, but they haven't responded until now.
Okay, all right. And then the tenant relocation?
The tenant relocation plan, last time the panel asked if we can find out from the existing tenants what is the level of assistance that might be required in addition to the monetary compensation that we have proposed.
Right.
And so we sent out 2 surveys, one as a survey requesting information, and then a follow-up reminder for a survey for both buildings. And the response rate was, I summarized in a letter. I believe that is in here. So this is the letter that I
So what's
sent.
what's the response rate? Because I think at the last time we looked at this, it wasn't clear who was aware and who wasn't. I think something had been
There
dropped
was
through
no summary
anonymous.
last time.
Yeah.
So when the panel asked, we went out for a survey, and so with the survey, I read through all the surveys, and I actually personally redacted the surveys because there's personal
Okay.
information.
So you
I
got
took-
98 back out of 128, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, so there are 98 out of 128 that answered.
Okay.
And you will note that 92 requested some form of assistance
Okay.
I guess when you ask, would they like assistance in finding alternate accommodations, most people would say yes. There are 6 who said no, they don't need help.
Okay.
And 2 have basically said they're moving to Vancouver, so.
Okay, all right, and you Not sure where she is now, but you have your housing coordinator available too.
Yes, we've had the tenant coordinator on board before as well.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we have the lady standing by as well, who heads that division, and is Associate Rome. So they also sent in a letter that
Yeah.
informed
We've
how
got
many
that.
units that they currently have, and,
so maybe what we can do is hear from Mr. Craig for staff comments, and then see if the panel has any questions on any of the three items. Mr. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to the truck access to the adjacent strata to the south, we do have two options available to us, and the strata has committed to taking that information forward to their strata council for approval. The project would be able to proceed under either of the options, should the strata council agree to changing the parking arrangement on their site. With respect to the revisions to the south elevation, we do believe that they do respond to the council or the development permit panel direction to look at ways to improve that. In terms of the tenant relocation, the plan put forward by the applicant does respond to the city's official community plan requirements for such a relocation policy. That policy will be, or the tenant relocation plan will be secured by a legal agreement as a condition of the development permit. Prior to demolition of the building, the developer will be required to provide the city with a report outlining how the tenant relocation plan was executed in accordance with the information provided to you today.
Right, okay, so Wayne, I have maybe a couple of questions about that plan and how it'll be administered. I'm not sure that we have done a lot of these in the past, so there's a plan there, there's going to be a covenant or precluding demolition permit or demolition until the plan's been satisfied. Who decides? Will it be our housing staff that decide whether the relocation plan has been adhered to a satisfactory level?
Yes, it will be a combination of policy planning, affordable housing, and development application staff that will review the report provided.
Okay, because if the relocation, let's say that the relocation plan is not particularly effective or effectively implemented, then it will hold up the demolition permit, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay, as long as it's clear, right? Because, you know, I think it's difficult for us to say whether the efforts are adequate at this point, because the plan meets the OCP, if I understand you correctly, the tenant relocation.
That is
plan
correct, yes.
Meets the OCP, but there is still a key step, and that is the spirit in which the plan is implemented. And if it isn't effectively implemented, then it may complicate demolition, right? So if a whole bunch of tenants say, we really didn't get any help here, it's definitely going to be an issue for your development, right? You understand that?
well, for the panel, I've had 3 experiences with this in
Right.
Vancouver.
Good.
2 are ongoing, 1 has been successful.
Okay.
That's all I can say, and
Well, they're not good odds, Mr.
Sorry?
Liam. They're not good odds. So you've only...
I'm aware of how
Difficult.
this can
Right.
be an issue.
Yeah.
And I would say that the questionnaire was crafted by me,
Right, okay,
and I've learned from how those other ones have gone.
okay.
And what we also do is, with the pandemic situation better, we will have open houses. And the open houses, we've done them on other projects where they would be held in the lobby of the building and also in a community center, so that it's an open discussion, and we show people what it is that we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're going to do it, and what are the assistance available.
Right.
And when we conduct a series of open houses and meetings, you'll find that more and more people will show later on, because they know that, yes, this is something that will be happening sooner or later.
Right.
And so the tenant relocation coordinator, they do go and meet with them
Right.
and a one-on-one and say, because
Okay.
there are some personal questions. And so they will try and make a fit. But there's two other things that, what we've learned is that the places that they identify, there's a time sensitivity there. That unit might be available in that period of time, but if they don't act,
Right, well.
you have to
look,
find another one.
We're probably a little bit out of the panel's
Yeah.
area, but I think
So
it's.
I'm aware of the
Yeah,
challenges.
I'm glad that you have some experience, and I just wanted to flag that this is going to be it could be a little bit complicated, because it may be open to debate whether the relocation plan has been implemented effectively or not. And,
Fair?
but I think for me, today, we have everything that we can reasonably expect to have. And it sounds to me like the city has a pretty strong control point by being able to withhold the demolition permit if there isn't
Oh, yeah.
a feeling that, that everyone's done a good job, right? Okay. Look forward to seeing how it goes. Any other comments from the panel, or questions for staff? Peter?
Mr. Chair, I had a question. With not having a lot of history in this project, there's two options for the truck access. I understand that.
Right?
There's two options for the truck access, correct?
Yep.
So the one that is not used, what happens to that space?
The one that is not used, if it is a hammerhead, if the hammerhead is not used, then it becomes part of the front yard and the right of way to the park. So that's our preference, is not use the hammerhead, because it would be much better for everyone. And we actually proposed removing those two parking spots a year ago, June. I was in a discussion with the previous president of the Strata Council, and Mr. Bill Sorensen. He was all in favor of that, but we have a new council president now, and
I think you've advanced the ball, though, on the issue. Like last time, you had reached out to the Strata and
Yeah.
heard nothing, and now you actually
we
have a
we understand
resolution.
this project has been
Yeah.
for a number of years.
Yeah.
And these are these things that over time that we are aware of, and we talk to the neighbor, you know.
Well, I'm glad that they've responded, because I think it's going to be a better arrangement than.
We think it is.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we made the offer, but as you can see in the letter I sent to them, they promised, but they didn't answer. And I kept following up, calling, but they weren't answering.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden, when you asked, and when I reached out, because Bill was here last time around, and one of the council members, Peter Demchuk, was here as well. So he called me, said he didn't know anything about that.
Okay, good. So it's been resolved.
It all worked out better
Any-
for everyone.
Any other questions, anyone? No? Any public? No? Anything written? No? Okay, anyone want to move the staff recommendation?
Okay.
Moving quickly.
Well-
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favour? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Wayne, any new business?
No new business,
Do we
Mr.
need
Chair.
the meeting on October 15?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And with that, we're adjourned.